a truck pushes into the crowd. People are running without knowing why. The driver steps out with a knife, and the street becomes a scene of panic and sirens. The perpetrator? A young man, educated, socially capable, but increasingly consumed by anger and a fragile sense of belonging. Tokyo, Akihabara. It is Sunday, June 8, 2008, just after midday. The street that usually belongs to cars has been handed to pedestrians. For a span along Chuodori, between Sotokanda 5-chome and Manseibashi, people move as a single body: shoppers, couples, groups of friends, visitors who came because Akihabara is a destination, a neighborhood built on electronics and subculture known well beyond Tokyo. The space is open, but it is also contained, bounded by intersections, storefronts, curbs, and the unspoken expectation that the street is a place to relax. That expectation is what breaks. A rented 2-ton truck enters Akihabara's pedestrian zone area. In seconds, a weekend scene becomes a police scene. People run without understanding why. Some freeze. Others step forward to help, then recoil when the danger changes shape. At the intersection of Kanda Myojin-dori and Chuodori in Sotokanda, a man drives east toward the crossing. He pushes through the red light and, at around 12:33 p.m., accelerates into pedestrians on the crosswalk at over 40 kilometers per hour. 5 people are struck. 3 of them died. The truck continues through the intersection and collides with a taxi waiting in the opposite lane, finally coming to a stop. For a moment, some bystanders assume it is a traffic accident. Then he opens the door and steps out, a dagger knife already in his hand. He starts stabbing people nearby, first the closest, then whoever is within reach as the crowd ruptures and scatters. The violence moves in short bursts, following him down the street. By the time he is stopped, 12 more people have been attacked with the knife. Officers from the Metropolitan Police Department, Manseibashi Police Station, including personnel from the nearby Akihabara police box, close the distance and pursue him. He resists with the knife. The officers keep pressure on him, striking him with a baton and forcing him backward into an alley. At gunpoint, he is ordered to drop the weapon. He places the knife down, and he is arrested on the spot. When the incident ends, 17 people have been attacked, 5 by the truck and 12 by the knife. 7 are dead and 10 are injured. Investigators later confirmed that the man had multiple knives in his possession. The man's name is Tomohiro Katō, 25 at the time of the incident. He was born in Goshogawara City, Aomori Prefecture, in September 1982. Japanese coverage often notes that he came from a comparatively well-off family and attended a high-ranked local high school. But after failing university entrance exams, his path became unstable. He graduated from Aomori Prefectural High School in March 2001, entered a junior college related to automobile maintenance, and after graduating drifted through various jobs, frequently via temporary employment agencies. By 2008, he was living in Susono City, Shizuoka Prefecture, working as a dispatch employee connected to the auto industry and staying in a dormitory. 3 days before the incident, on June 5, 2008, he was due to start an early shift just after 6 a.m. At work, he couldn't find his work clothes and erupted in anger, saying, "This company is taking me for granted," before leaving early and then not returning. The next day, reporting says he bought a knife in Fukui City of the same type later used. At trial, prosecutors emphasized mounting anger and isolation, including repeated online postings, and argued he was especially demoralized after a woman he had been chatting with online stopped replying. Japanese reporting and later summaries describe Katō as deeply attached to a mobile accessible anonymous bulletin board, an online place he carried with him. In court, he explained the difference in scale the way he understood it. "The boards I used were like a high school class. 2-channel was like a university. In a class, you recognize people. There's familiarity. In a university, hardly anyone knows each other. Most are strangers. They were like family to me. The bond felt like family. On that smaller board, he said he could communicate with other users almost like close friends. For him, it functioned as belonging. In February 2008, he played the role of a lonely man because he is ugly, and the response was positive. From then on, he continued posting self-deprecating messages as the host of an ugly thread. Meanwhile, trolls impersonating Katō also began appearing on the bulletin boards. Then, he said, the atmosphere shifted. After trouble with a board administrator, he moved the thread elsewhere. But in the new space, he encountered trolls, users who posted to provoke or upset others, and impersonators who copied his identity and posted slander under his name. He described the feeling in vivid terms, that his relationships had been taken over, that when he came home, there were people who looked like him living as him, that even his family treated him as the fake. He said he became fixated on proving he was the real one. In that state, he claimed he reached a bleak conclusion, that he could not get the message board back without committing a crime, that he had no family to love, no stable job, no friends, no place to belong. After persuading himself of that, he carried out the attack. He framed the plan as a way to psychologically strike at the trolls and the audience he believed was watching, by creating an incident that would be reported widely and would reach them. One Japanese account describes a thread title posted shortly before the incident, "I will kill people in Akihabara." It also describes an early morning post outlining method, using a vehicle first, then a knife if the vehicle became unusable, and later posts indicating he had arrived in Akihabara and confirming that it was a pedestrian zone day. That is why Akihabara was the perfect stage, not because it is symbolic to everyone, but because on a Sunday at midday, it concentrates strangers into a single corridor and guarantees bodies. The lead-up to Akihabara is unusually traceable because, before he reached the street, Katō narrated his approach in a mobile bulletin board space. At 5:21 on the day of the incident, he created a new thread on the Ultimate Communication Bulletin Board and posted repeatedly as he traveled from Numazu toward Tokyo. At around 11:45, he wrote that he had arrived in Akihabara and changed the thread's title and content to announce his intent. He would crash his vehicle into people, and when the vehicle was no longer usable, he would use a knife. At 12:10, he posted, "It's time." The attack followed shortly after. By multiple descriptions, he could talk to people. He made friends at workplaces. He kept in touch with people who shared his hobbies in Aomori and Sendai. He had a bar he liked and an owner he could speak with openly. On the day of the incident, he even invited a former co-worker to spend time with him. In other words, he was not socially invisible. And yet, in his own words, he clung to the language of isolation. No place to belong, no one to love, a life without anchors. That gap is one of the most disturbing features of the case. The isolation was not always in the facts of his life, but in the way he processed his life. He could have people around him and still experience himself as cut off, welcomed, and still feel replaced. In Japanese reporting and later case summaries, Katō's explanations are not wrapped in ideology. They are framed as escalation. He describes feeling ignored in online spaces and believing that if he did something big in the real world, the people he wanted to affect would be forced to notice it. Because the death penalty is on the table from the beginning, prosecutors and the court narrow in on responsibility. A psychiatric evaluation is ordered and summarized in coverage as concluding that he had full criminal responsibility. In court, prosecution side psychiatric testimony is described as finding no sign of mental illness and affirming responsibility. On March 24, 2011, the Tokyo District Court sentenced Tomohiro Katō to death. The Tokyo High Court upheld it on September 12, 2012. On February 2, 2015, the Supreme Court dismissed his final appeal, finalizing the sentence. On July 26, 2022, he was executed by hanging at the Tokyo Detention House.